I'm Ryan Milliken from Hardway Performance, and you're listening to the Diesel Power Podcast.
This is Jaron Holder from Holderdown Performance.
This is Anthony Rings from XDP.
I'm Dimitri Miller with No Zone Diesel.
I'm Drew with D&J Precision Machine.
I'm Pinky.
And you're listening to the Diesel Power Podcast.
Diesel Power Podcast.
Diesel Power Podcast.
And you're listening to the Diesel Power Podcast.
The one and only Diesel Power Podcast.
Hello, Diesel fans, and welcome to the official Diesel Power Podcast. Remember to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube and iTunes for the latest information on diesel parts, accessories, races, and the always entertaining Diesel Gossip series. Our guest today is Ben Shadday from Done Right Diesel Performance. Ben builds some badass trucks, and he's got some really cool things coming out for 6.7s. We're going to jump right into our conversation with Ben and what he's got in store for 2016. Ben, I definitely want to thank you for coming on the Diesel Power Podcast today, chat with us about your business, the diesel industry, the trucks you're working on. We're glad to have you on.
Well, I'm glad that I got invited here. It was an honor, and looking forward to it.
Awesome. We've got a ton of questions lined up for you. Been compiling them. People that want you on here.
Good deal.
So how did you get into the diesel industry or get into diesel trucks?
Back in around, it was 2001 or 2002. It's actually when I purchased my first diesel truck. It was a 94 Dodge. But prior to that, I hung around with a couple older guys, and we raced four-wheelers and whatnot, and they always had trucks. And, of course, I couldn't afford them at that time. But, when I did get my first one bought, it was an addiction that I knew was going to last for a while. You get a completely stock 94 Dodge cranking out the big, probably 185 horse at the wheel. Then you remove the cam plate, and it compiles after that because then you're flipping the clutch, and it's addicting horsepower is what it is. And ever since then, I've owned a diesel truck.
Once you get bit by the bug, it never goes away.
It doesn't. It sure does not.
How did it go from being an interest in something you like to drive to being a profession and a business for you?
When I started with the, obviously the P-pump motor, there's quick ways to make it not only, a daily driven truck, but to take it to where it's extremely fun to drive. And then you get working on your buddies, and then you realize, hey, this is something that I really enjoy to do, and they're going to pay me to do it. So it's just one of them things it didn't even feel like work to me, and it was kind of a dream, I guess, to have a shop eventually. But to make that leap, to leave a daily job for it, it was a scary task too.
It's one of the constant themes that a lot of the guests have talked about, and I've asked them, and I know, to a certain extent what that's like. But there's a lot of people out there that they love trucks, they love the industry, and they're in that point where they're wondering, can I do this for a career? Can I really make this support my family? Or should I stay where I'm at? Is there anything you learned in that process of doing it that you would tell someone just coming into the industry, or maybe someone that's struggling to make that happen? Things they can do to just keep on plugging away and make it a reality.
I think, I did several things. I remember calling and texting or even emailing. We work with a lot of different shops. It's not necessarily you're the best at everything, but if you can provide the best. So I started asking around. Instead of, placing that order online for parts, I would email a guy and say, hey, how did you get your start? Or, what was you doing before you were doing this? And I was asking successful people, and their number one answer to me was to have a business goal or a business outline structure and follow it. It's really easy not to follow it, but then it's also easy to fail. There's certain times, there's certain things that I don't want to do or I want to do that's outside of my business structure. But if you really keep your, to the grind there and be, I'm extremely tough on myself. to not get outside of that business plan, you're going to be well off. And I had a good friend of mine, Michael Dalton at RLC Motorsports there in Tennessee, and I probably bugged him. I know I called him 20 times. Michael has a good, successful business, and I would run things by him, and like I said, I called him over a bit. And it's just one of the things you have to stick with your goal, and just keep your nose to the grind.
I met Michael. I met him at Shadday Diesel. I don't remember which year it was, like 2011 or 12. He's a really cool guy. I enjoyed chatting with him. Super nice guy. Great business skills. Just not only even outside of the business. Michael and I are great friends. He helped me a lot. I think it's really important too as far as having mentors, and it transcends business and sports and life and lots of different things. But when you jump into this industry or any industry, it's hard to know what to do, what not to do, what mistakes other people have made that they can tell you, so you don't necessarily have to make the same mistake. And hearing that, knowing what Done Right Diesel has done and where it's headed, to know that you took all that information and put it into a plan, I think could help a lot of business owners, people thinking about coming into this industry to go in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Now, I've heard about your trucks. I've seen them. I've seen them before. Is racing something that is that your true passion? Is going out there on the track or sled pulling?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've probably heard by now that I sold the drag race truck. I want to do something different for 16. But as far as back to your question, competition is just something that, whether it's in a diesel powered vehicle or gas. In high school, I was big into Mustangs and drag racing. I think it's just competition itself is something that fuels my fire. So any motorsports, I should say. But yeah, that's me, and in a nutshell, is competition.
That's awesome. I know that the trucks that you've turned out have been very competitive, and you tell a lot of work, a lot of passion, and a lot of drive goes into them. And
we really pride ourselves on trying, not to only get something out there, but I see a lot of good projects started and not followed through, so to speak, from start to finish. And we try to pride ourselves at Done Right Diesel as finishers, because if you start something really cool but you never finish it or never follow through, it's in my opinion, it's a lost cause.
Absolutely.
So
it's tough to keep that motivation too.
It is.
It's through a longer project, and you're absolutely right. That's where projects and companies and builders kind of separate themselves from the pack, so to speak, is in staying motivated, on task, and detailed through the whole process.
Absolutely.
Now let's talk more about Done Right Diesel. What do you guys specialize in? What's your bread and butter? The 03 to 16 Cummins is what I consider our focal point. But anything 1 ton and down, diesel, common rail engines. We will work on some mechanical stuff, but it's not so, it's not our cup of tea, I guess. But we do, my big thing now is focused on like the 10 to 16 4th gen style trucks, to make them better, so to speak, drivability, and tuning, and that's kind of what we focus on. You guys are in Indiana, right?
Yes, sir.
Indiana is, whenever I've been out there, I've never seen so many Dodge Cummins trucks in my life as when I've been out there.
Yeah.
So it's a good market.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty plentiful here in Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio. We're 45 minutes west of Cincinnati, an hour and a half southeast Indianapolis, and an hour and a half north of Louisville. So we're right in the middle.
That's got to be awesome, though, to be able to have, where your shop's located is customers from all over can come to you for these things you're doing on the trucks and the builds and the tuning and everything else. It's just all right there for you.
Right. Yeah, but it's a very good central location.
Now, say if somebody comes into the shop and they say, hey, Ben, this is my 2006 Dodge. I want it to run 950s. Do you have a process or a program where you can go from, engine to the rear end and just offer someone a complete solution for building that truck?
Yeah, we usually sit down, when it's somebody that's getting that serious. I'll sit down with them myself and, we'll talk about what are you going to do with it? What is your end goal? Like, what is when we're done with this thing, what do you want to do? And then, the thing with me is I'll make suggestions as I'm building it for myself. So if we finish that and it doesn't complete its goal, I'm not happy either, because I spec this thing out for the way that I would do it, and we'll change something to make it reach that goal. Because I usually sit down and it hits back to the pride thing again. Is we're gonna, I don't want to do it 2 and 3 different times. We want to do it once. So we look at the best parts and services provided for that customer.
I've been seeing a lot of things recently, and I think evolutions in the diesel industry where, a while ago to have, say, a 13-second daily driver was pretty cool. Well, now they can do that with not a whole lot of parts thrown at them. What are you saying as far as the kind of power that you can drive on the street, the kind of, say, quarter-mile times you can push out of a 5.9 or 6.7 and still keep the reliability there?
I think, especially if you're talking maybe, are you talking like a stock engine, or are we talking just built, or? Yeah,
I'd say with a stock bottom end, maybe head studs, valve springs. But,
okay. I would say, that's that 800 horsepower range. I know there's some, throughout the United States that push that envelope, but I think anytime you go over the 800 horsepower mark, you can about have a bucket to pick up the rods at any time. And you can probably look at around a low 11 or high 10-second pass and still daily drive it. I'm not going to say you're going to pull 26,000 pounds with it, but I think that's a plenty reliable setup.
On a, say on a 5.9, is what are some really key parts of, say, building that 800 horse truck that truck owners need to think about or not try to cut a corner on? Would it be something in the motor, in the transmission, with the fueling? What do you guys see out there for putting that together, making sure that this setup is as reliable as it can be at this power level?
I think anytime you start turning one up, I feel that Valvetrain's important. You see a lot of guys with, they're turning the RPM 4 or even 5,000 RPM. There's probably about 75% of the trucks on the road that should not be turning the 4,000 RPM mark. They probably quit making power about 800 RPMs ago, but it was, I guess it's the cool factor as well. So push rods, valve springs, like you mentioned, head studs. I'm a firm believer in I like the fleece performance coolant bypass to evenly cool and heat that engine block and head. That's money well spent. We're $300 or so to put a coolant bypass on there, and I've personally seen any head gasket job that comes through our place is standard with one. So that's an important inexpensive part that I would recommend. And then, of course, transmission. When you get to the 47, 48 RE, I believe, like Levon talked about, the different levels of, when a customer calls him, he asks to hear again, he asks their goal, or are you sled pulling, are you just pulling a trailer? So there's several different configurations, anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000, $11,000, just depending on what the customer wants to do.
As far as the 6.7s, to kind of jump into that platform it took a while to get going, but it seems like now it's come along with the aftermarket and the advancements with it. And when you take that same truck and it's going to make more than stock power, maybe say 500 to 600 or so, what kind of issues do you see with the engine itself that you didn't necessarily see on the 5.9s? that people should think about addressing if they're going to make more than, say, 500 horse on them?
I would probably be more concerned with, not at 500 and 600 horse, I guess, but I don't know that there is a whole lot of difference at that level between the 5.9 and 6.7 as far as reliability. I probably see more blown head gaskets on 6.7s than I do 5.9s, but that's I can't really explain why you do it. There's not really any difference in that engine versus the 5.9 on that power level.
Right. It's like the VGT chargers that are on them. They're great, like for the exhaust brake. And it seems like that charger would have been fantastic on a 5.9.
Yeah,
size
I think it
right.
would have too.
And it's like the tuning has eclipsed what the charger can do, and it's almost a limiting factor, I'd say, to a certain extent, trying to get past that 500 horse mark on those trucks.
Right.
And also head studs, with there being two types of ARPs. It seems like on one the 5.9 works, the other the 6.7 works better, but it's kind of hard, to spend $1,100-$1,200, whatever it is, on those ARP 625s. But yeah, when guys start pushing them and it starts to build that heat and the drive pressure and everything, it's something to consider, when building street trucks.
We try our best to sell, not to just be salesmen and move product, expensive product, but I usually try my best on a 6.7 truck to talk the customer into a 625, especially if we're doing a fire ring or something. I just don't think with the 425s you get the fire ring crushed properly, and I know it can be done, and I've done it myself, back before I really looked into it pretty hard. But I think for the overall insurance that the 625 is the better stud.
I remember when I first heard of Done Right Diesel, I heard of the tuning you guys do. What kind of packages do you guys offer for the 03 to 07 5.9s? 03
to 07, we have, of course, the new HP tuner stuff. I've been sticking to it on the 03 to 05 stuff and staying EFI Live on the 06 and 07. And then, of course, for 07.5 to 16, we have the EFI Live stuff. And we just recently, we are beta testers for Smarty. And we have some of the new Smarty software. It's not ready to go yet, but we are working on it. It appears that it's going to be very nice software to work with as well.
Having been in the diesel industry for a while and done so much in it, what's it been like for you as a tuner to have, say, to go from just the boxes where you could just pick a level or different things to something like HP tuners and EFI Live and these other platforms? What's that done for your ability to make a truck, kind of to bring all the hard parts together, make it perform?
Oh, it's huge. Not to take anything from Smarty. I mean, that's back in 04 or 05. That was all you had was Smarty. You put a Smarty on it, and you blew smoke from town to town, and it was just, that was part of life. You made good power, and they provided a product that was premium, better than anybody else's. But now, we can use boost limitation, throttle, TPS. There's so many ways to make that truck drive normal, which defines normal in my dictionary is, so you're just not basically like a 12-valve talk, you're taking the cam plate out. We're no longer taking the cam plate out. We're using boost and fuel as a mixture and providing clean power that's good for the engine and not overheating and breaking rings or cracking pistons. It's a lot better platform for the tuner and for the end user.
The HP tuner stuff, I talked a little bit with Ryan about it, and I've seen some things out there. I'm not extremely familiar with that platform, but I know that the 03 to 05 guys are really excited about it. What if somebody calls you up and says, "Hey, I've got an 04, this is what's on it, Ben, I'd like you to tune it." What does that product allow you to offer the guys with 03 to 05s?
Oh, it's endless if needed. They got 5,000 RPMs of full fuel, full control of the ECM transmission, trouble codes. It's everything. It's not just you're not pressing 9 no more. it's full tunability. It's the same, it's the same platform, in my opinion, as EFI Live is.
That's really cool because those guys, I know they waited a long time, and it started with the 06, 07s and 07.5 to 09, and it's really cool to see the early 5.9 Common Rail be able to have that kind of tunability with it.
I agree. Yeah, you was getting a lot of people, and I built them for, competition stuff as far as like standalone harnesses, but none of their gauges was working. So they had to make a decision, 6 months ago. Am I going to take my street truck and run around with no gauges? And so it's their hands were, pretty tied until now. And Smarty's new stuff is looking really promising as well. I think they're going to be maybe giving HP a run for their money on that because their program is looking real nice.
Companies compete, everybody wins.
That's right. That's right. You get to choose what you want there.
So what about for the 6.7s? What do you got going on for the 07.5 to 16s?
The new, our new thing that again, our focal point is the 13 to 16 emissions on tuning. I have a 2016 shop truck that we're working with. It's got 1,500 miles on it, and its first program was flashed into it at 128 miles. So it barely got off the dealer lot before I had the ECM unlocked, and of course, it's all stock, EGRs in place, all the emissions are in place. So that's kind of, with everything that's going on with Volkswagen, and I believe in a 5-year window, we're all going to be clamped down on some emissions rules, and at Dun Diesel, we're going to try to maybe set that bar of, tuning these trucks through the exhaust. I know there's been several other people mess with them, but you've never really just seen completed results to where, they're proud of what they did. They're, we offer emissions on and then change the subject. So we're going to try to move forward and make some nice horsepower, reliable horsepower through the emissions.
It's going to be really cool because the 6.7 has come a long way from those first, say year or two to where they're at now. I bought an 08 brand new, and I don't even remember how many times I was at the dealership for O2 sensors clogged and different things, and then that improved, and those kind of went away on some of the later models, and then the turbos have been improved a little bit, for the reliability. And I think that the point it's at now and where it's headed is the parts that are on these trucks and the way it all works together has gotten pretty good to where the power can be pushed farther than any of us, out here probably think. And we look forward to seeing what you're going to do with it, how you can bring that all together and just get more power in this package that every manufacturer's, offering, between Ford, Dodge, and GM, the way they're set up off the factory, showroom or off the lot. Now, as far as the transmissions on these 6.7s, have you played around with those much, or what are you seeing as far as 68 RFEs and even the ASIM, as far as kind of handling these tuning improvements and extra torque?
My shop truck has the 68 in it, and it's doing really well. We upped the line pressure, changed the shift schedule, even bringing on lockup a little earlier in fourth gear. And it's so far, and of course I haven't, we're still about the mid 400s on horsepower through, everything stock. So I don't believe we're at a dangerous horsepower for the 68. Some of the 10 to 12 stuff we had up with stock turbo and injectors had up around the 500, 520 mark with the 68. Still pretty happy. So I don't think that's going to be a hold up for us on this emissions on tuning.
As far as the transmission too, that's something that's really cool. And a lot of guys, when they first get a 6.7, don't realize just how much they're missing by not having that. So when you do these tuning packages, what kind of things can you do, like with shift points, and how does changing lockup make the truck more drivable?
Well, with the shift schedules, what we do, and I'm sure you bought an 08 brand new, you know how it is. When you're driving 50 miles an hour, say on a back road, and you're in sixth gear and you look down and you're running 1100 RPMs. That's, to me, that's not acceptable. For, if you look at you're out of a torque range, you're out of a horsepower range, so it takes more, when you actually do want to go, it takes more throttle to get the truck actually moving. So my thing is to have the truck, the closer we can, and this is what I found, the closer the truck can stay between 1600 and 1800 RPMs, is we're seeing better fuel mileage gains, throttle response. It's just kind of its happy spot. And, that's something we do is we don't allow the truck to just lug around.
That was what I hated the most about the stock transmission, was exactly that, being at 1100 RPMs. And you can
it's terrible.
The truck could even shudder a little bit depending on where you had the throttle. And you need to get in the throttle, raise it up. So being able to change that and make it more responsive, it totally changes the truck. Absolutely. On the ASINs, have you been able to play around with I have not. I don't have any of that. It's something, it's on the list, but it's not towards the top. I think it probably will get looked at, but it's probably going to be later this year. Later in the year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've started to. It's been tough as a Cummins enthusiast or a 6.7 enthusiast. Is they've had these two transmissions, and I think that the ASIN's starting to come on more, but it's not quite in enough trucks yet, to really be able to kind of push it and throw a ton of power through it and find those weak points. And Andrew had mentioned at Suncoast, they're starting to look at it, and some other companies are. So it'll be cool to see, what comes out of that, and even with the 68, because guys are just making more and more power with them. And well, like you mentioned, with the tuning ability, this didn't exist 2 or 3 years ago. You couldn't really tune a 68 RFE, but now you can. Yeah, and we build an ISIN in-house, and it's just that's another thing. There's just nothing other than stock parts. There's nothing available. So I asked Ron from Suncoast. It was a while back if they was planning anything there, and he said yeah, but it wasn't priority. Yeah, it takes a while too. And even I imagine with the tuning that you're doing and the stuff you're working on, it doesn't happen quick, because like when you're going to put out this product, you're going to make sure it's as good as it can be, and you can support all these different trucks and all these uses, and it takes time to be able to put out a quality product like that. It really does. You hear a lot of talk of first to market. I personally don't pride myself to that. I don't want to be. I'm not saying I don't want to be first to market, but I would like to be best to market. If they had a saying best to market, that's what the goal I would be after. That's awesome. So Ben, I've heard that you're working on a pulling truck, and I wanted to see what you got going on with that. Yeah, we're working on about a chassis, a rolling chassis. It's actually a second generation chassis, it's an extended cab long bed. The truck is going to get a common rail, so I couldn't run around with a mechanical motor talking about tuning 2016 trucks. So, but it's going to run this season, 2016 season at the Lucas Oil, and it's going to run the 3.6 class, which is basically last year's 3-inch class, but it's a 3.6 smooth bore turbo. It's going to have a Fleece Performance 6.7 deck plated motor in it. So that's about it, really. I was going to use the motor from the race truck because I just sold the chassis, but it's actually going into another race truck. It got bought before I got a chance to put it in my pulling truck, and I spoke with Chase over at Fleece anyway, and he's got a new idea for the pull truck anyway. So we're going to be running the 6.7 deck plated dry motor, no coolant in it. That's gonna be definitely cool to see. When do you think it's gonna make its first maiden voyage out there? We'll probably do a couple little trials around here, maybe rent a sled just to make sure it's gonna get on track. But its first points pull will be at TS Beach Bend, or not Beach Bend, but Bowling Green, on I believe it's the first week of June. We'll have to check back in with you right after that, see how it did.
we named the truck. I was trying to think of a name for it, and with having a common rail engine and whatnot, so we named the truck Common Sense.
Something took me quite a while to attain, but yeah. So for the diesel fans out there that want to check out, see your new products, new tuning options, events, things that are going on in the shop, where's the best place to see what Done Right Diesel's doing?
Done Right Diesel the Facebook page, and there's also DoneRightDieselPerformance.com. All our products are listed on there. Within, I'm going to say a month, we're going to have a dealer locator on our website. What I kind of push for is if you're, I probably have a dealer in about every state. So what I push for on our personal products, our tuners and whatnot, is that they get on the dealer locator, find the dealer closest to you, and give them a shot. Not only buy it from them, but then if you ever have any issues or anything needs to be done, the dealers that I set up are very educated on our products. So usually they can take care of a problem if it arises. If not, they can get with me or the guys, and we can get it knocked out pretty quick.
That's a fantastic resource for truck owners out there to have.
I think that would be great.
Yeah, have a dealer network like that and support, that's local to people if they need it.
Right.
It's right.
Right. That was the goal. And we get a lot of calls, and we get stuff ordered straight from us. And I'm not saying that's a problem, but usually, if you're calling an order, there's probably going to be a dealer close to you, and they can actually one-on-one face. They can be right in front of you and FaceTime, say, hey, this is what's going on, and get you taken care of without sitting on the phone all day, waiting for one of my guys to call back or myself to call back.
We'll definitely have some links in the podcast description. That's right to the site, Dealer Locator. So any listeners out there checking out the podcast, you guys can just click right on it and go right to Ben's site and see what he's got, where his dealers are, and just give him a shout.
That's awesome.
We definitely appreciate you sitting down with us today, Ben. I know you're a busy guy. I've always had a ton of respect for you in the diesel industry, and I can't wait to see what you come out with this year and check out that pulling truck ATS.
Well, I very much appreciate it, and I thank you for the opportunity.
And for all of our listeners out there, make sure and go to Done Right Diesel Performance on Facebook and give them a like. They post a ton of great pictures, and you can see updates from the races and new R&D projects they're working on. It's a really cool page. Until next time, keep the shiny side up.